Well, hello, everyone, and welcome back for yet another episode of the Waterlife Debrief Podcast. I'm your host, Natalie Phillips, and today I am joined by a rowdy crew. Nevertheless, it is Discipleship Pastor Kevin Burns. I almost forgot your role.
Kevin returns.
And lead pastor Todd Braswell.
All right, good to be here,
How's
Kevin.
Good to be here.
Good to have Kevin back
Welcome
after
back
his
to the table.
Vacation.
Y'all did a great job.
How dare you betray us like that?
Last week sounded good. Our listeners can tell you the same.
Well,
so Kevin, did you have a good time on your vacation? Inquiring minds want to know.
It was very nice. It was very nice.
Where'd you go?
Surfside Beach. My mother has a camper down there, and so we spend. Basically, our routine was spend a couple days at the beach, then go to the pool, then do something else.
Was it camping or like glamping? Like,
oh no, she has a camper. It's a.
Well,
nice
I know,
camper.
but like camping is like camping, but then glamping is like the more like a nice camper, and you're like not roughing it.
We're not roughing it.
Yeah, not roughing.
And so, but Skylar and I went
that's
parasailing.
my kind of camping.
Oh, cool.
And so that was a real fun memory. And then we went deep sea fishing.
Yeah, I saw pictures of Peyton with a knife.
You saw a video of him too.
Fish up. That's good.
If you watched our social media, you saw a short video of it
that's
too.
That's where I was busy. Out deep sea fishing.
I should have introduced you as Ricky Tan. That's what I should have done. We're at the table with Ricky Tan.
It was a great time.
Who?
You don't follow our social media. You don't.
What Ricky Tan? What is that?
We made a video this past week.
Yeah. Kevin's always in those things. He does a good job. He's funny. Kevin, you're a funny guy.
He is funny.
No, I just do what Natalie tells me to do.
When he first came here, he said, "Oh, I don't go on camera." I said, You thought. Now he's on camera every single week.
Now he's on camera all the time.
That's why I tell everybody Natalie runs the place.
Yeah, something like that. She's snarky, that's for sure.
Try my best.
She got a few shout outs today.
So I got to ask you. So I'm steering this thing where I want it to go. Like I had coffee and I'm ADD. But
great.
I'm watching this So I got to talk to y'all sports people.
Yes.
You're sports people.
He's more than me.
Now, you played the basketball, didn't you?
Played the basketball.
You played the basketball, Kevin? You played some of the stuff?
I use that term loosely.
Well, you played. You probably were rough. I got a feeling you were out there getting after it. And so I'm watching. Who's the pointing girl? What's her name?
Oh, Sophie Cunningham.
Yeah, so I'm fascinated by the pointing girl. So I found that endlessly amusing when Becky showed me the video. So I started watching them. Now they send me all I got nothing but women's basketball videos coming my way. But I like them because the memes are gold. And y'all did one here at the church, which
that's the only interesting thing about WNBA.
Yeah, but man, what are these girls doing? Like I was listen. If it involved a ball, I couldn't do it. Like I was terrible at it, terrible. But I know enough to know. Man, they fouling that girl all the time. They had this clip of them tackling her and then calling plays.
They hate her so much.
When did basketball get so rough? That's rougher than the men. They're tackling people. Then there's a video of her like, I've had enough. Now she starts tackling everybody. Man, I'm loving it. I'm all into it.
They stomped on Caitlin Clark's neck a couple weeks ago. They it was bad.
She was down in it.
There's no way. I know.
That little burn with the finger, man, that's gold.
So
I love it. That girl
petty.
gets so mad.
So petty.
That's I learned that a long time ago. I'll give you a little shout out secret for the road raging for the Waterlife peeps.
Okay.
So I would always learn when somebody would give me the one finger salute.
Mm-hmm.
I would wave at them like, "How you doing?" And then they get mad because they think, "No, that's not what I'm doing." And I'm I just wave and then they get all mad, anything. But nowadays I get you shot, so don't do that.
Oh, it's so true.
But anyway, the same thing.
I have to tell,
I'm gonna do the finger pointing thing.
Jet started sitting up front with me now, and I have to tell him to not look at people, or if somebody cuts me off, he'll start being like, "Why did they do that?" I'm like, "Do not throw your hands up at people. Don't do that. You can't do that."
I wave my pistol at them. That's what I do.
No, bleep that out.
I ride down the road like this.
Clears the path.
Cut me off.
So
that's what I
dare
do.
you.
As the window's down.
In your Toyota Matrix.
Quit making fun of my car. Quit making fun of my car.
It has gotten you a long way. It has gotten you a long way.
There are people that are upset about that car. It makes people upset. There are people praying about that car.
Traveled a lot of miles in that thing.
That's a good car.
Yep.
That's a good car. Anyway, I just thought, I was wondering, I was fascinated by the memes. I found endless humor in the memes with that girl doing that because it was such a good burn.
It is
with
fun.
Natalie used her on one of ours.
Well, I know. But then I'm just saying, man, the tackling, man, them women are rough.
They are.
What's wrong with them women? They're chopping each other. Apparently the officials aren't any good because I'm assuming that's a foul.
Are they ever?
That's WNBA.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, there you go. Well, that's all I know about that, and I'll let it go. But I was watching one of those right before I came here, and I'm like, man, they're tackling that girl, and she's looking at the refs like, what? The ref's right there. Like, how do you miss them wrestling her to the ground? But anyway, it's kind of fun.
True.
So that's enough. That's my sports.
I'm not going in there. How did we get here, and how do I segue away from this?
I'm not going to talk about the World Cup.
I know, right? Oh, it's definitely the coffee. I know. Sometimes he'll walk downstairs and he'll have his I can either smell it beforehand, or he'll walk down there and he comes around the corner and I get a whiff of his coffee. I'm like, all right, here we go.
Fired up.
Here we go. What are we in for today? Yep,
Right,
he's
let's
fired
rock and
up.
roll now.
All right. Well, now we're going to talk Bible. We're going to talk Sunday morning now. Well, actually, we're not. We're going to talk about what's coming up first. We're going to catch everybody with a couple announcements.
Connect
before we
Camp
get into
is
the
the big driver for us. So
Next
not
week,
this
y'all.
Monday,
I know.
but the next Monday, the
I cannot
20,
believe
what is
it.
it, 27th?
Yeah,
27th.
27th through the 31st.
It's not too late. Get your kids, grandkids signed up. It's going to
Yep.
be good.
Yep.
Just be excited and pray about that Waterlife family. Their staff will be with us on Saturday. They come in Saturday. They'll be in their host homes. They start setting up Sunday afternoon. They'll be with us in worship on Sunday. And then, man, they'll be here through Friday before they tear down and go home.
It's
So
a
it's going to be
full
a big week.
operation, too. I mean, they come in Sunday afternoon and they deck this place out, unload this big old box truck. It's like a Tetris board in there. I'm like, how do they do
does.
it? I don't know. But we're their last camp of the summer. So by the time that they get to us, they're a well-oiled machine. And they're like, but
That's awesome.
they transform the place. And the kids, I mean, they have such a wonderful week ahead of them. I'm so excited
Yeah, it's
just to
gonna be
see
good.
what God's going to do.
Super
Yep.
good. Yeah, super
Absolutely.
good.
Thankful for the opportunity to host it here. So take
Yeah,
us
and
up
right
on
after
the
that,
offer.
just put it on your calendar, Waterlife Church. We got Waterlife Works. We moved that out of May, where we used to do April and May, where we traditionally used to do it, and we've moved it to the beginning of the school year. So
Right.
in August, is it the last Saturday in August?
20,
yeah.
whatever,
29th.
yeah, and
Yep.
the 29th. We saying more about that, but lots going on. We keep plugging away in the series.
Yep.
I'm getting excited. I laid out where we're going, and so I've got a little bit of. We were in Corinthians today. We're going to do a little bit. We're going to move and do a little kind of mini thing on James, like we did Paul. Just a few messages out of James, and then a few out of First and Second Peter, and then we're making a beeline for the Revelation.
Woohoo.
The Revelation.
The Revelation.
Yeah, but pet peeve is people say that book of Revelations. It's not Revelations,
Not
it's
plural.
Revelation. But anyway, but it's a good book.
Why do some translations say Psalms and then others just say Psalm?
Well, I don't know. But anyway,
I was like,
gonna
maybe
say,
that's why.
like, I
Maybe
don't
that's
know.
why they think. I don't know.
Maybe
but
I
they're
wanted
trying-
to hear that answer because I didn't
I
know.
know who's
I
like,
would make up
well,
something,
I
but-
don't know. I know you. Well, I don't know.
the Greek word, anyway,
Yeah.
whatever, the Hebrew word. But,
Yeah,
but anyway,
heaven
but
to
that's
the Revelation.
But that's where we're going, and that'll be fun because we're going to talk all things heaven, hell, how to live in the meantime. But just the promise that God made to come back for His people and rule and reign and new heaven, new earth, all that kind
Praise the
of stuff.
Lord.
So it'll be fun. Yeah. So we got that coming up, and we're excited. Fall's going to be excited. Big announcements coming in the fall with like
Yeah.
a big thing we're doing on Wednesday night. So that's going to be fun. So stay tuned.
Stay tuned. Exciting things.
off.
God's up to some good stuff for sure. Pop off. Get fired up. All right. Well, now we will transition into Bible Sunday morning, all the whole thing. So we had a wonderful day with our church family. Good to be back in the house together. How'd you feel about your message today? How'd it go?
Todd tried.
You always do. You
I
always do a great
tried.
job.
I tried. I like
Yep.
the topic.
Yep.
Fired
It's a
some people
personal.
up.
It's a personal topic for me.
Okay.
You
So
know,
what'd you
'cause
talk about?
Been there talking about spiritual gifts, that they are, as Alistair Begg says, I love that phrase, tools not toys, that every believer has been given gifts by God. Now, that's the interesting thing. Like when you look at the context of what was going on there, and I had to read this. I didn't have time to do it this morning, but like when I saw a meme a while back that said, if Paul was here, the church would be getting a letter. Because Paul wrote letters to all these churches that he pastored, but like, man, Corinthians is messed up. They got all kinds of problems. And like, as a matter of fact, in chapter 11, right before he talks about the spiritual gift issue, he's taking on the Lord's Supper because they're getting drunk in the Lord's Supper. It's like they do all kinds of stuff. And this is what Paul says. Now, you got to read this. Now, you got to appreciate the humor in this. Paul says this is chapter 11, verse 17. He says, in the following directives, I have no praise for you, for your meetings do more harm than good. Like, he says, I don't have anything good to say about you because every time you meet, you're messing up. And then he starts talking about the Lord's Supper and they're fighting, they're doing all kinds of stuff. But he said, literally, people getting drunk, carrying, like, they all kinds of crazy shenanigans going on. And so he's got to straighten that out. But then he rolls into the spiritual gifts because they were apparently arguing about whose gift was more important and, all this kind of mess. And so Paul rolls into that with that great verse where he said, look, I don't want you to be uninformed. And I like that. He's like, look, when it comes to spiritual gifts of the Spirit, I don't want you to be uninformed. I want you to understand the right thing. And it's because Paul understands this is a big deal. Like, you cannot get around the fact that Jesus calls us to serve.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, you literally, like that, like core Christianity 101, he calls us to do that. I mean, he tells the disciples, the world lords everything over everybody, not so with you. Son of man, I didn't come to be served, but to serve, give my life for ransom of many. I call you to do the same thing. So like this serving thing is big. And so Paul understood the importance of believers using their spiritual gifts, which in my mind, a lot of them are just their talents and abilities, but we're using them for the greater good, for seeing people saved, building up the church, that kind of thing. And so he kind of gives a deep dive into that. And I love that. I love that passage because, as I said this morning, it's pretty fundamental for me. Just when I was wrestling with call to ministry and like, this can't be right and I can't do that. And I remember reading that or hearing that in that Bible study in college and kind of thinking, all right, there's no other way to read that verse. Each one means, there's just no way. Now I can make excuses and do things, but that's dumb. It's not going to say that if that's not true, that seventh verse. That's the big thing. Now to each one, the manifestation of the Spirit is given for the common good. So Kevin, you got gifts. Natalie, you got gifts. I got something. But anyway, but that's just how it is. And so I've bumped into a lot of people over the years that I think bump and wrestle with that same thing. And so for me, man, God's calling me to do something. I'm like, I can't do it. Here's why, A, B, C, and D. The Moses excuses, the same kind of format. But that verse was foundational. But I love it. It's just kind of like God gives everybody these tools for the toolbox.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Like everybody. And there's this huge diversity of them. It's not just music. Though that's a gift, I'm not minimizing that. It's not just people like myself who can stand on a stage and teach the Bible. It's not just that. It's just a myriad of gifts. And y'all know, Kevin, good grief, you help people get into service. And Natalie, you lead a team as well and help, facilitate some of that. Like the amount of different jobs and different skill sets that are going on around this church is huge. We got people that come and just, they give their time and their talent to help the kids team prepare supplies for Sunday. There are people that help and do admin stuff. There are people that come in, and lead life groups and people that are organizers. We got like any number of things going on.
Well, and then you mentioned that, and you think back to like whenever we just had Easter, and whenever Peggy approached us, and she was like, "Hey, these are my gifts, like to do theater and drama and things like that." And she was like, "How can we implement that, in what we do, maybe do on Sunday mornings?" And so she got together with some other people here at the church that had that same, passion, and they put together a beautiful presentation for our Easter service.
Well, yeah, and when she showed up, I had to make sure we were speaking the same language. She said, "I do drama." I'm like, "Well, I don't."
Yeah.
What kind of drama are you talking about?
Right. Yeah. Theater drama.
And I love that. Like, so, and even I like it when people will come and say, "Hey, I've got a heart for this, a passion for this. Can this be of service? Can this be of service?" Now, granted, I've had some people out of left field come sometimes with some stuff that as a church leader you have to say, yeah, that we don't do that here, right? That's not, so it's not, but I love it when people have that heart. They're like, hey, I'm gifted in this. Is there a way that you can leverage this? And I've always been able to find that. Like Kevin and I have had recent talks with a young guy named Ben, who's new to our church, and love Ben. And Ben's got a heart for service, and he's helping us put together something I've been thinking about for a while, kind of a men's service team to be able to respond in disasters and different things and meet needs and stuff. And so we've had some meetings. Kevin's been a part of that, and he put together an incredible plan for how this is going to work. We're getting that kicked off. We're going to announce that to the men at Man Camp next month and kind of get that going. But I love when people kind of show up and they're like, hey man, these are my gifts. This is how I serve. Can that be, service here at Waterlife? And I love being able to do that. And I hope some people from this morning I know Kevin said he had some at the service class at both services, but the people that couldn't be there, I hope they'll take us up on it. That man, you email us, you tap that dot, contact us, fill out a card for whatever today. We'll contact you tomorrow. And if you weren't there, contact us and we'll get back with you, because we can always help, you find your place of service. But that's the thing. I want to see people like, hey, understand I'm gifted, I'm called to serve. And let me figure out where to plug in and use my gifts to the best of my ability. Because that's the thing. Like, you want to have the right fit. Mm-hmm. Like, I can only do what I do.
Correct.
Like, multiple people can have the gift for preaching. I do it the way God wired me to do it. I know I'm not for everybody, and I'm fine with that. I am comfortable with that at this point. Like, I don't care. I'm like, that's fine. You don't like that? That's cool. Whatever.
Right.
But this is what I do. And I just do what I do. But I would not be a good fit in some other areas in the church. It's just not my niche. And that's the thing, like starting this church, like you have to wear a lot of hats when we started out. It was me, It was a guy named Adam, and then it was a part-time music guy. And that was it.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was doing a ton of stuff. I was wearing all kinds of hats. And, as the church has gotten bigger over the years and we've got more staff, been able to hand off some of that, and some of it, you can do it.
Mm-hmm.
It's just not in your wheelhouse.
Right.
It's like, that's not where my heart is. It's just, I know enough in some areas to be dangerous about things. I got a work ethic. I can figure it out most of the time, but what do I do best and where do I need to leverage my time?
Right.
And it's kind of like we were talking about Dorcas, today, and I kept hammering that.
Every time you said that name, I was like, oh my God.
Well, it makes me think of, I had a teacher in school.
You have to do more than $100. Somebody named their child that.
That's pretty extreme.
Well, I still hold out money for Sand Ballot and Tobiah, but they've not taken me up on that either. But now y'all made me lose my train of thought. But anyway, I want people to find where they're wired, plug in and find their fit. And that's an exciting thing because then the team's moving. Like you just got all kinds of gifted people doing things. And so there's a lot of talented people out there. And I hope it was helpful today. Like I said, for me, I had to come to grips with that verse.
Mm-hmm.
And that, okay, God's given me something. At least one thing. And at the time, I didn't know what it was, but I could not deny that. There's no way, there's no other way to understand that verse.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm not a loophole. Everyone doesn't mean everyone but Todd. It's like, okay, I got to figure out what that is and I got to leverage that. And that was very, very helpful on the back end. But I just hope our people will do that. And I'm thankful and I know y'all are as well, thankful to the people that, my goodness, in our church that serve every week, that give of their time, talent, and abilities. I mean, people do some incredible job. There's incredibly talented people there that do all kinds of things around here, which is really, really great. Young and old. And in the middle, everything.
Absolutely.
Yep, for sure.
There you go.
Got any feedback on that?
No, I agree with what he said.
Cool.
Again, it's great to be part of a great pastoral team, but just like I say in the serve class, I says what we do on Sundays is grateful for the multitude of volunteers that help fill in the teams.
Right. Yep.
So let me put you on the spot. So what are your gifts, Natalie?
Oh, okay.
I'll tell you if you don't know.
Go ahead and tell me.
No, I'm not going to make you. I'm going to tell you. What do you think? What do you think?
Well, and then I don't know if you want me to share my story now.
I would
okay.
share that. There's no agenda.
Well, no.
There's
So that's
agenda.
kind of we got to stay on somewhat of track, but I mean, I shared. Okay, in my Facebook memories, it was funny. It said from a very young age, I knew that I wanted to talk a lot all of the time, and so that's one thing for me has always been the gift of gab. I have always been a talker. I've always loved talking to people. So that is one gift I feel like God has given me is just to talk to people. Now, I've had to learn, my first big girl job, I was working at a front desk in an insurance agency. And so we had a lot of older clients that would come in. And I told my boss, I was like, I don't really know how to talk to them. I don't know what to say. And he said, your first question should always be, so how about the weather? What do you think about the weather? Every time. And it would get them every single time. So that helped me. But anyway, so that has obviously.
You tried that in the offering talk.
I know, right? Yeah. But
how about that weather out there?
Cricket,
Can you give it to the church, please?
I know. Yeah, cricket. But anyways, yeah, so that is definitely one gift that God has given me is to talk to people. That's helped me a lot in ministry. But another one is obviously just kind of, I don't know, I say organization, administration type thing. I don't really know how you put that into lump that together. But it's funny because as you were talking today, and it's just funny how God will kind of reveal things to you. But whenever I first came here to the church, I came in February of 2020, whenever we first came into this new building. And not long after that, it was obviously the summer of COVID, but we were doing a service project because, projects at Yokefellow and things like that were still going on. People were still hungry. People were still in need and things like that. And so we had a project to go up to the Yokefellow and fill bags of beans and rice. And so Jay was here at the time and she was kind of in charge of that team over there. So I was showing up. I was ready to go because I had never been at a church.
Shout out to Jay Edwards, a dynamo.
Yep. She's
with
the
big
best.
hair. Big hair. Anyway.
She's amazing. So a good team leader. And so anyways, I had never served before. I'd never been part of a church that, served and different things like that. And so I was fired up. I show up ready to pack bags of beans and rice and I'm standing there and Sharon's giving instructions. I'm listening, and then right before we get started, Sharon just looks at me and she's like, do you work on computers? I was like, every day of my life. I was working at the orthodontist office at the time. And so anyways, and, we were talking to Tracy earlier and he said, well, that was Sharon's discernment, being able to see something in you that, you were just kind of different. I don't know, whatever it was. But so then here I go. Everybody else is filling bags of beans and rice. I go to this office area and I'm making cold calls to people, telling them where the mobile food banks are going to be that week and stuff like that. And so again, using my gift of talking to people, but also kind of administration, organization. And so, and then I had mentioned also earlier earlier, originally, whenever I still lived in Indiana, I was enrolled to go to college, and I was supposed to go for business and marketing and that kind of thing. And then, my life changed, and God changed my course that I thought that I was going to go on. And but my mom told me the other day, she said, if you think about it, what you do with the church now, you still get to kind of scratch that marketing and business itch, the things that you were going to go in, because I do our social media, and I've tried like doing our website and our app over the last few years and stuff. Now we've got intern Alex that's like working on that. But anyway, so yeah, there's
Shout
just been
out to Alex in the control room right now.
Amazing. Yes. So there's been all kinds of avenues that God's taken me down. Every single job experience I've ever had, he's revealed a different type of gift to me in every single one. And so it's been
nothing's
awesome.
wasted. God always does that. And that's true.
Is that a fair assessment?
Yeah, you're very comfortable. You got a leadership gift. You got that organization admin thing, and you do that in your role here. But also, you're very good with people, and you're very natural on stage speaking. People come in on all the time, so you got a gift for that. That's a lot harder than people think it is to talk in front of people. So you do well with that. And so,
thanks.
Yeah, so very good. So how about you,
now
Kevin?
ask Kevin. That's all. Okay, put Kevin on the spot.
Kevin does funny videos.
Yeah,
that's what
he does, and he's surprisingly good at it. Surprisingly good at it.
I follow what Natalie tells me to do.
Yeah. That's a good rule of
That's
thumb.
a gift.
There's where you went wrong, Kevin. I thought you had the gift of wisdom.
And Todd does the complete opposite. He's like, I will not do what she says.
That violates the discernment and the wisdom gift.
Yeah,
but
there you go.
No, I mean, with that, of course, with 22 years ministry, and even prior to that, if you go back to the spiritual gifts assessment and things of that nature, you go back to, according to that, leadership, teaching, and hospitality.
Okay, cool.
And so.
Okay, wow, yours took 15 seconds, and I took
well, that's because you have the gift of
on
gab.
mine.
That's
I know.
why,
I warned y'all. That was the first
Kevin
one I listed.
has the gift of being succinct.
Exactly. Oh, thanks.
So yeah, I have the gift of the killer comeback.
That's what I was going to say.
I have to keep that one in check.
What are your gifts, Todd? You mentioned one this morning, being able to teach the Bible.
I teach the
in
Bible
a way that's easy
in an
to
understandable
understand.
way, and I tell jokes. And
I do like the shout out the first service gave for that.
Yes.
Being practical.
Yes.
Shout out for all those in the first service.
Yeah, people recognize
that.
That's true about you. And I mean, I'm telling you, it's absolutely, I've told you all the time, it's changed the way that it's changed my relationship with the Bible and how I can actually sit and read and understand, just because I can see it from a practical point of view instead of just being like talked at. I can see myself in this story, and I can see God in all the stories. And so it's helped me.
Well, see, I look at it like I was meeting with a guy the other day, because people from time to time ask me, and I've walked you through it. I walk all our staff through it about like, here's my philosophy on teaching. Because people ask all the time, how do you do what you do? I'm like, so I just wrote it down. I'm like, here's some things that I've learned over the years that I learned from other people and learned from me and do that. And kind of here's my way of doing that. But like, I think when you're teaching the Bible, one of the best things is just like, if you'll remember, you're kind of like a tour guide. You're helping bridge the gap between a society and a culture 2,000 years away from us in a different part of the world. Mm-hmm. And yet the people problems and the issues are still the same.
Right.
Mm-hmm. So you're helping people see that. You got to help them navigate the weirdness. Their culture's just so much different. You got to help them navigate that, but then you help them see, man, people just like us.
Right.
They had arguments with their spouse. They were fearful. They were lacking in faith. They got angry, and you help them understand that. And that's when I do all my little convert it to Southernisms. So like today, like the boy with the Bojangles biscuits and the fish sticks from Captain D's.
I said, man, it's been a long time.
It's been a while since I've uncorked that one. But people kind of
chuckle.
chuckle. But it's like, look, you put it in your terms. And some people roll their eyes and think you're being undignified. But it's just things you're helping people put handles on the Bible and kind of navigate. Like, here's what the Bible says. This is what we need to know. This is what we need to do. And so, what do we do? That's very clear today. Like, well, what do we need to know? Well, we need to know that spiritual gifts are tools, not toys. God gave us tools in a toolbox, and we talked about why they're used, but then what do we do with them? Use your gifts, don't neglect your gifts. And here's 3 ways to figure out how to do that, to deploy your gifts or whatever. So that's all what I like to do. But I always feel like you're being a tour guide, and I love doing it because I just love it. It's fun to teach the Bible. I mean, it's God's word. It teaches us everything we need to know, change your life, build your life on it. Firm foundation. So it's fun to teach it. And it is fun to be in a church that allows me to be me. I've had churches that, even though they said, I remember dealing with one, Kevin. Kevin, you,
Yeah.
and I told him, like what I tell everybody when I said, look, man.
Might be one I've dealt with too.
Perhaps. There's a strong possibility.
Not me.
I'm winking at everybody on camera. But God bless them. But I remember, like I told him, I'm like, look, man, like what you see is what you get. Yeah. Like this is what I do. This is who I am. If you're not comfortable with this, don't pursue this, because I've just learned. I learned a long time ago, you cannot be somebody that you're not. Like, right. I just cannot be the slick back. Well, I don't have the hair, but I can't be that guy with the coat and tie yelling at everybody or whatever. And that was part of my, when ministry was called, I'd look at these pastors and I'm like, well, apparently they like casseroles and potlucks. I don't like that. And they like to yell a lot. I don't like that either. So I can't,
I'm out.
I don't even fit in with this crowd. Right. But I learned like, this is what God wired me to do. And I always tell people when they're like, everybody, like if you're learning to speak and you're a young pastor and all that, everybody, myself included, has people that influence us. Mm-hmm. You can't help but have influence.
100%.
But don't try to be them. Right.
Mm-hmm.
Right. You can be influenced by something, but be you.
Yeah.
No, be you. And so I just learned, I'm just me. And there are people that walk out on me. They don't like it. We've had that, and people that send it, and then that's fine, whatever. But like, I'm not bothered by that. I'm like, this is what God wired me to do.
Mm-hmm. You said, don't try to be those people that you watch. This is so embarrassing in telling about me. But one time, y'all know, there's a lot of ladies in ministry. But one time, Sadie Robertson, she's young. She's like a couple years younger than me, whatever. And I was watching her on YouTube one time.
Didn't we look into her?
And Didn't
she quite expensive? She's expensive.
I don't even want to think about it.
Yes.
I don't even want to think about it. Yeah.
Never mind. Sorry.
And so I was watching her speak at one of the Passion conferences, and I was noticing, I was like, because I was just, trying to figure out, like, how can this is whenever I first kind of started speaking. I use that term loosely, but anyways, and so I was like, she's just so calm and just so whatever. What is she doing? And I watched her, and she like had one hand in her pocket, and she just had the microphone in this other hand, and she was just saying it. So
did you start doing it?
Wait, no. So the next Sunday, I get up there, and it's funny because my dad, he's like sitting down there, and in retrospect, like he tells me after the fact, he said, I saw you come out there, and you had your hand in your pocket, and I was like, what is she doing? My dad instantly knew, like,
Sadie, Natalie.
Yeah, and so I did that, but that was also the same day, if you remember, they put my verse up on the back screen, and it was like this tiny font, and I couldn't read it, and so it was just this cluster of horribleness, and so in that moment, I was like, okay, yep, I'm just, scratch that, I'm not even going to try ever again, but that was an example.
That's Natalie's ministry fail number one.
That was an example of don't try to be like
ministry fail number 2 was when she about drowned that girl in the Johns River baptizing.
Like, I still want to see a video
for the video people. For the people watching, I wish I had the video here. Like Natalie put that girl down in the stream in the current, and they couldn't get her up. That girl was rolling down this river.
Okay, and also disclose the fact that she was like 6'5", and we're in
so
this
what are you saying,
river.
Natalie?
We're in this current, and I'm like trying my best. That was my first.
Okay.
baptism.
You have parameters of who you can baptize?
No, it was my first baptism ever, and that's why I'm like, give me a chance at the tank, and let me see if I can do.
I chopped somebody in the throat, so I can't say much.
Yeah.
They had a picture of it,
like exactly.
So
I just charged a bunch of water.
Thanks for outing yourself.
There you go. Sorry to hijack it.
No, I did. I had to tell my Sadie Robertson story. Don't try to be somebody else.
Yeah, don't.
It doesn't work.
But point of that is, and getting back to something that is relevant, like the sweet spot for us as believers is when we find the passion God gave us and the gift that lines up with that, and we align it to that perfect fit in the church.
Right.
That's the golden place to be. And, for me, like I said, I learned, okay, this is what I do. Like, I'm not trying to and I don't get bent out of shape. Like, I can't believe they don't tell me I'm deep. I don't care. Like, I don't care about that. To me, a lot of times deep means nobody knows what you're talking about.
Right.
I'll take understandable every time.
Every
time. So I'm good with that. Be comfortable. And that's the thing. Be comfortable in your skin. Be comfortable with who God made you in the gift. Now, as we're talking a minute, work and develop it.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
But be comfortable with that and be who God made you to be. But man, when you find yourself in that place, man, you thrive there. I love it. Like, man, I love what we do here.
Yeah.
And I love what I get to do here.
Best.
And they let me be, like I said, they let me be me. The ones that don't want me to be me, they don't hang around.
Right.
Yeah.
And because I don't listen to the emails anyway. So they leave and they're mad and hot and bothered, and that's fine. But God bless them.
Right.
You can be a pain in somebody else's blessed assurance. But whatever. But anyway, I don't have to worry about it.
Fired up.
I am fired up. There you go.
We should name the podcast Unfiltered. We were so
I told
close.
You should have.
So close. I know.
I'm going to get in trouble. That clicker about made me say bad words this morning. I had to be careful.
I know. But you told on yourself too.
I was like honest. I was like, oh no.
You didn't say anything. You're like, oh, I said something.
It was
when
great.
Technology doesn't work, I get very frustrated. Sorry, I'm taking it everywhere.
Yeah.
There we go.
No, that's okay.
It's good discussion. Good. Well, good. Like,
yep.
Y'all were talking about your gifts. That's great. People need to see everybody's got a diverse, and that's what's fun. Around the table, there's a diversity of gifts, even with the three of us. See, it's great. Like what's in my toolbox, not in yours, and vice versa, Kevin, and all that. Yes. But there's a reason God gave the gifts, and use the gifts. And here's something I will throw out for free. I didn't get time to really expand on this today because it was a thought, but I was running out of time. A lot of people spend a bunch of time focusing on the gift they want, but God didn't give her.
Oh, you said that, and I said amen.
And it's like, so it's like, yes. Okay, you can do that, but that's not going to advance. Like, I'm not going to dunk a basketball. I can't even I can't even dribble a basketball. Like,
I
not that I want to.
Let's
not
go
that
to
I want to,
Mulberry.
but I mean, it's just like okay. We're wasting time on that. That's not going to change anything. It's better to like double down on what God did give you, and you'll be effective there. So
Absolutely.
don't try to be something you're not. Use the gift God gave you in the right place where you fit best.
Well, that goes back to what you were saying just a minute ago. Be the man, be the lady that God made you to be.
Right.
100%.
Don't be somebody else.
100%.
Yep. You'll miss out on it.
Shazam.
If you wait too long. And
That's the same thing. And I feel the same way. And this is my philosophy too about churches. Churches are like people. Churches have personalities.
Correct.
And it's like, some people will show up here and they want us to redesign our church to the one they came from. It's not even close to us. I'm like, no, we're comfortable with what we do here.
Right.
Yep.
Like, we're not saying that's a bad way of doing it, man. There's all kinds of great Bible-believing churches that have all kinds of styles of worship and do different things. That's fine. But we're comfortable with what we do.
Right.
Correct.
Yep.
So,
absolutely.
Yep.
Get fired up.
Awesome.
All right. Well, so now there was a couple like kind of discussion topics that we just wanted to dive into a little bit today. So, we're talking about gifts and, you referred to the scripture that said there's, all kinds of different gifts and been given to each one. Each one of us has these gifts. But one thing that we also kind of touched on today was that, you had mentioned your famous phrase, delayed obedience is disobedience.
Trademark.
Trademark. And so
I got coming in a t-shirt too.
Like that's another Toddism.
Yeah, I love it. Yeah. And so one of our questions was, so if we know our spiritual gifts, so say that we know them, but we just have failure to launch and we don't do anything about it. So what keeps us usually from using our spiritual gifts?
Okay.
And,
Well, there's a couple reasons.
Yep.
We talk at the end of the message about watch out for the obstacles, and sometimes it's just excuse mode. Sometimes it's just flat out disobedience. I have known people that like absolutely talented, like, I'm not interested, not going to do that. Yeah, I remember one lady I did, like incredibly gifted in music. She's like, I'm not going to use it. I'm like, why would you not do that? To me, that's just being disobedient. God gave you that for a reason. Right? Sometimes you can't have that. A lot of times people go into the excuse mode. I think that's a big one, where it's like, we're pacifying ourselves in our mind like, oh yeah, I know I need to do, I will one day. I just can't because of this circumstance in my life. And the reality is like, it's always like it's a busy season. When is life not a busy season?
Right.
That's going to be about priority and what you adjust and what you make room for in your life. Because people like that, they're busy, but they got room for everything else. It's about priorities, right? And as follower of Jesus, you just got to get past the excuses and make it happen. So I think sometimes there's that. Right. So there's that category. Right. You can be absolutely disobedient. Yeah, I'm just not interested. I'm not going to do it. You can make excuses that kind of are trying to pacify your spirit and make you feel better about not doing it. But the reality is it's still disobedience and we're just making excuses.
Right.
Or, you jump in and do it. Now, there's another couple avenues, and it's kind of what we focused on this morning. There are those people that like just don't think like I do. It's not that you're not willing. It's not that you don't know the scriptures that call you to do that. You just don't think you have anything to offer. Like I joke about it all the time, but I'm not joking. When they gave me that, like, look, I came up in the neighborhood, I talked about sports, like everybody in the 70s, man, it was all Little League, and it was all about that when you're old enough to go out. And I went for every team that first go round. I was terrible. When you strike out at T-ball, it's bad. Like when they got it on the tee and you can't even hit, it's bad, right? And I'm just like, that wasn't for me, but my friends all thrived in it. So I get this idea, man, I'm just like not good at anything. Now, years later, I picked up surfing and they were trying it and they couldn't do it. I could. And I'm like, okay, this is something God could do. But at the time, like, I come from that background where I wasn't really good at a lot of those things. I wasn't mad about it, but I just couldn't do it. And then I had that test. I'm not kidding. I walked away from that test in middle school for the gifted and talented program. And when I didn't pass the test to get in, the only thing I knew in my little logical middle school mind was I'm not gifted and talented. I don't know how you get anything else out of that. Right? I mean, I don't. And I wasn't sitting around moping. I wasn't mad. I'm just an average kid that doesn't fit in most places, right? That was kind of my experience in life. And so I carry that into adulthood. And then God's called me to do this thing. And I watch it every Sunday with somebody like, y'all have met Dr. Estep, my pastor, who is a phenomenal speaker. He's incredibly gifted. He's a wonderful mentor to this day. We got to hear him the other week at Village Church. Man, he's such a good guy.
Truth bombs after truth bombs.
Yeah, just great and just so talented at it. And I'm going to watch that and I'm like, I can't do that.
Right.
Like, I cannot do that. I am way too introverted. Like, I'm married to an extrovert. Now, the irony about her, she's incredibly extroverted, one-on-one, a group and everything, but she cannot stand the thought of being on stage. Anytime I have to bring it, like, she's just mad at me if I do that, because that's just not what she wants to do. She doesn't like that.
Yeah.
And that's what I do, but I didn't think I could. And here I'm introvert, but I just didn't think I had anything to offer. And I think there's a lot of people. I think, like, I look across our church today, and obviously there are people making excuses. There's that. But I think there's a significant amount of people that just don't think they have anything to offer.
Right.
And again, I think when you look at what you see every Sunday when you walk in there, it's primarily music and people teaching the Bible. And I think just people think that's the only gift. But as we said today, like there's this incredible diversity of spiritual gifts. And I always try to stress to people that line. I hope they picked up on that today. Don't over-spiritualize spiritual gifts. Like it just means it's sourced by God, that God gave you something, okay? He gave you something. He gave you a gift for leadership. He gave you a gift for whatever, like organization, whatever it is, compassion. You know, God's working in you and it's all spiritual things that come from God, but it doesn't mean it's some weird thing out there. But I think a lot of people, that is a hindrance to people because they just don't believe they can do anything. They don't have anything to offer. Now, part of that, what dovetails in with that is another thing. And this is the Moses phenomenon, that there are people that feel like they've disqualified themselves from service because they had a failure early in their life. So when you look at the story of Moses spends 40 years in Egypt. Y'all know this, you know, and he's cocky and he's kind of bold, and he decides, you know what, I'm gonna get ahead of God and I'm gonna defend the Hebrew people, and he ends up killing a slave master. Then he tries to lead those 2 Hebrew slaves and they reject him, and he's got to flee for his life, and he ends up in Midian. 40 years dealing with stinking sheep. Every day he picks up a staff. Every day he picks up a staff, which is a symbol of how far he's fallen. It's not the shepherd's staff is not the scepter of royalty he had in Egypt, right? I mean, it's just like it's the Bible. The way the Bible portrays it is great because it's such a stark contrast. You go from the top to the absolute bottom, and he's out there every day dealing with sheep. And what he doesn't realize, the whole time God's preparing him, but he is marred by that failure. He even names his kid Gershom. Is like, it means, I think something like, I'm a stranger, I'm a foreigner in a foreign land. Now think about what that is. He's named his kid failure. I'm not who I used to be. I'm not where I used to be. I'm a foreigner in a foreign land. It's just like he's marked by that failure. And he's not a very positive person. When God comes knocking, we talked about that today, he makes every excuse in the world because he just believes, not only am I not gifted, but I tried that, been there, done that. They're not going to listen to me. They're not going to believe me, you know, that sort of thing. So I think failure, for some people, it's like, I tried, I failed, so I can't do it, you know, that sort of thing. Man, I would have gave up on preaching a long time ago. That first one was terrible.
I wish I had the cassette tape.
Yeah, the cassette tapes.
Do you know what a cassette is?
I do.
Okay, just making sure.
My great-grandparents had
great-grandparents. Good night, man. But I do think, you know, that is a problem for people of failure, or people that have had, like, listen, we're all sinners. We all need Jesus.
Oh, yeah.
But people that have some kind of major moral failing and they think somehow God, with their damaged goods, and God can't. Nonsense. Paul's killing people. And God used him to turn the world upside down. Like, 100%. I mean, you know, so that's that. But I think those are some of the things. And then, Natalie, I'll say this one. Here's another one. You get this one for free.
Get fired up.
Get fired up. So there's failure. You know, there's all that. We don't think we have, you know, anything to offer. But then the third one would be on that category would be fear. People are just intimidated to step out and do that. Right. I just don't know. What are people going to think? Can I do it? All that. And so fear is like always a big paralyzer for people not to do things. And so I think that's some of the reasons we don't. Right. That's my take. Kevin, you got anything to add on that?
No, and that's where I think excuses, fear, and then past failure. I mean, it is what keeps people. You know, and I've seen that over the ministries. But then I also think, you know, we say it often, where John 10:10, where the devil comes to steal, kill, and destroy. He wants to thwart the church and the progress there. And of course, you know, nobody's going to stop what Jesus is doing in the church. You know, but I think if each and every one of us take 2 Corinthians 10:5, which again I read it weekly, is where it says, "Take every thought captive," because where the devil attacks me is right in the brain.
Oh yeah.
You know, and if we can take our thoughts captive and get past that failure, get past that fear, and realize that God does want to use me, then we'll use our gifts and we'll seek to find out what the gifts are and then use them for
you brought
the church.
Such a good point. The older I've gotten, you know, when you study the devil in the Bible, we focus on most of the time on deception. Yep. Like he's the deceiver, he's father lies, Jesus talks about it, and 100% he does all that. But man, the older I've gotten, the more I see how, and he works on me that way, he will sow the seeds of discouragement in your life in a heartbeat. You know, and I see our staff deal with that all the time. I know our church people do too, but our staff, you know, so you come in on Sunday, you tried your best, and somebody just, you know, whatever, just vomited all over you with some kind of dumb complaint about something that's not, you know, it just sucks the wind out of you. Natalie, I know I've dealt with you that before. You come in and just like, and it's like, yeah, and sometimes people, you know, and it's not just church people, it's just people in general, we can do that to one another. But discouragement's one of those things that like you can really, really get in the way of that. And see, that's the thing. The enemy, we talked about at the end of the message today that when you do this, this is what disciples do, right? And it will grow your faith, deepen your faith. That will happen. Right. He does not want the church growing and advancing. Right. He does not want you taking the step of obedience or me doing that or second faith and using gifts and doing that, because he knows what it'll do in you and what God will do through you. Yeah. And so he's going to do everything he can to discourage, you're past, you don't have any gifts, all that kind of stuff. So he's going to run roughshod on that, and he doesn't, honestly, for a lot of us. He didn't have to do much work on me because my life experience and my, I'm just introvert. Like, I didn't need a whole lot of help, not to run away from that.
Yeah. What we say often in the serve class is that serving honors Christ, serving grows your faith, and serving advances the kingdom.
Right.
And when we think about that, the devil doesn't want any of that to happen.
No, not at all.
And so,
and I, for some reason, just like as I'm sitting here, I know that in your sermons before you've talked about like back in your day, and you do like double dog dare, and that's like the ultimate, And so as I'm sitting here, I'm like, that's what I was thinking this morning. Like, I dare you to step out and go to this serve class. I dare you to get connected and just see how much it can change your life. You literally, we talked about this last week. You never know what hangs in the balance and what God has for you if you never step out and you take that first step. Because I think sometimes it's easy, like you were saying this morning, that people see the two biggest things that are just on display on Sunday morning is preaching and music. And so, but then they might have a tendency to like look at somebody like you or somebody like you whenever y'all are speaking, or even I've talked to people about my background and my story, and I try to be so open about that, because I'm like, and I tell my high school girls, I'm like, do y'all realize, like, whenever I was y'all's age, I was like so deep in depression. I was just having these relationship issues and just so infatuated with like boys and just all the wrong things. I had this potty mouth like nobody's ever heard. Sorry, Mom, if you're listening. I don't think she watches this, but anyways, and I think back to, I think back to that person that I was, just 10 years ago. And I'm like, well, it makes me feel old to say that, but just 10 years ago. And just seeing, like I said, so through all of these like career changes that I've had and job changes that I've had, and I didn't even really realize the depth of it then, but God was just like taking me through. But I was just kind of like trusting Him in each step and just going whatever direction I felt like He was leading me in. And so just to see how He's developed me, but then just to see like, taking a step out to join the young adults life group. And then that's led me to this position that I'm in today, but then just trusting God every step of the way and just being willing to put my yes on the table. So it's like, I dare you to say yes if it's in your mind whatsoever, if it's been on your heart in any capacity. And it might seem crazy. It might seem crazy to reach out and say, hey, this is my gift. Like you said earlier, this is my gift. Is there anywhere that this can be plugged in or whatever? Like if it's been burning, like just say something, because you never know how God can change your life and grow you, but also how that can impact other people and to build His church and to build His people.
All you got to do,
the same.
Offer your Bojangle biscuits and your fish sticks from Captain D's, like that, like whatever you got. But like, there's something about that. Like, and we are Bible people here, and we know the importance of the Word and getting a biblical worldview and how that grows our faith. But there's just something about when you take that and you put it in action, particularly through service. Like, it grows your faith like nobody's
really
business.
Does.
I've watched that through the 14 years, going on 15 years of the church, and like we watch people like take that step of service and what it does in and through them, and it's exciting too, because like last week. We had all the baptisms, and so here we are watching 10 people get baptized, and how cool is that?
Yes.
And people that serve in that and giving that, like, you got a part in that. It's exciting. Like even though like it might be somebody from Waterlife Kids, but maybe you're on host team, but it's still, we're in this together. It's that's exciting because we're serving toward that end of leading people to a knowing, growing relationship with Jesus. So I can't think of anything more exciting than that. And it'll grow your faith. Like I said, the devil's going to do everything he can to keep you from doing it, but just offer what you got to God and get in there. And as we said last week, you got to develop those gifts, though. You got to figure out what they are, and you got to develop and all that. But go ahead and get after it. Say yes. And remember, step of obedience, step of faith is always a step in the right direction. We say that constantly around here. That's a core value here. So just go do it.
Yep, go do it.
So I like it. Natalie double dog dared him, Kevin. Let's go.
When you think about Romans 12, where it says, present your bodies a living sacrifice. What is a living sacrifice? A yes on the table.
Right.
Yeah, it's all this stuff. Yeah, live with the bias towards yes.
Yes. Yep. I love it. All right, cool. So now we'll kind of.
We are on fire today.
I know.
We are on fire. Natalie's
that's why I told Kevin. I said we got to have the 3. I was like, get fired up. Okay. All right. So now next point we'll move on to. You just talked about about developing gifts. Okay, so we identify the gifts that God
Discover
has given
would
us.
be the word.
Yeah. Okay.
By the pastor's union, I'm bound to put things in the same letter.
I know, right?
These.
Well, so you
I had
talked
4
about
D's, like I was bound to do that.
That's what we're gonna. So in your message,
I'll get fined.
Yeah.
I'll get sanctioned. They'll pull my union card.
Well, we don't want that to happen. We don't want that to happen. So basically, you covered these 3 topics: to discover, to develop, and to deploy your gifts. So do you care to dive a little bit deeper into that, like what you meant by that?
Well, like I said, I do think the discovering piece is something, because a lot of times, like I said, when you get people to understand, like, remember, don't over spiritualize spiritual gifts. There's all kinds of like gifts that God gives us, these talents and abilities. So discover those, and you remember, go back and look. What comes natural? What am I passionate about?
Yep.
Like, what gets me fired up about following God? And like, where's my area of passion? Like, for some people, man, they just love kids. They're passionate about kids. They want to see kids come to Christ. They want to see kids, learn the Bible. Okay, lean into that.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
All right. You follow that driver. Like I said, my story, big part of mine was trial and error and learning. And I was trying to grow and do that. And God started showing me this is what I'm wired to. And then people were confirming that in my life, saying we can understand the Bible when you teach it. So you got to discover that gift first and foremost. And you're going to deploy that gift. But I think as you're doing that, that one right in the middle is one that continues to run. And that's develop.
Yeah.
Develop your skills with your tools we talked about. And that is one, we were talking about basketball earlier on. You got the Michael Jordan. Have you heard of the Michael Jordan?
Have you
heard of this guy?
Maybe a time or two. I don't know.
The GOAT.
The Michael Jordan. And I was going to say Michael Jackson. That's a different thing.
Yeah.
Not
basketball.
Don't tell Jet that, because he will fight you with LeBron James.
Oh,
that's him every time. Yeah,
no,
he's too young to know.
But think about
Jordan.
like I saw an interview with him one time, or read an article about something. They were talking
Michael
about
Jordan or Michael Jackson.
Michael Jordan.
Okay.
And he was, just to clarify, the basketball guy from North Carolina. I understand.
Yes.
But obviously, there's no discounting God-given talent to play basketball.
Right.
Like, obviously got that wiring. But man, he talked about how he worked to develop that, and his coach at UNC had driven that into him to develop that, and the amount of practice he did. I also heard, like, I was on listening to a podcast this week, and I think they were talking about Kobe. He's the one that died in the helicopter crash, right? Yeah, it was him.
Yep.
And they were talking about he was out there practicing at 4 a.m.
Correct.
When nobody was doing fundamental stuff.
That was after a loss in the championship game.
Yeah, I mean,
he went.
So you look at people like that. I've heard the same stories about like the golf guy. What was Tiger Woods? Whatever his name is. You see, I'm on fire.
There you go. There you go.
I'm all about it. I'm all about it. I'm dangerous.
Is that what's on your note sheet there? No.
But it was the same
sports
thing.
enthusiast right here.
But it was the same thing. Like the amount of practice he put in over the years, and his dad coached him in over the years. Like you got obviously God-given talent, but you got to develop it. Like, and that's something. We talk about that in our church culture all the time here on the staff culture. Be passionate, be professional, be example, be a team. That's our core values, and that passion piece should drive us to like do our best for God. Excellence honors God. God honors excellence. And so you do the best with what God's given you, but you got to develop that thing. You can have a gift or something, but you got to put in the work.
Right.
I was telling a guy that was, came to, how do you do what you do on the teaching thing? He's doing some Bible studies and wanted to know that. And I was going through how I do it in my format. And he's like, well, can you give me other tips? I said, yeah, practice.
Yeah.
I said, I've been doing this since the early 90s. Practice. I mean, most people don't understand that. Like, how do you memorize all that stuff? Because when I finish that sermon on Thursday, I've talked through it in my head most of the week. Then on Friday, on my day off, between Friday and Sunday morning before I go out and do the 9-1, at minimum, it's had 7 full walkthroughs of me talking out loud.
Wow.
To 10.
Wow.
Yep.
And it's still no good. But anyway, but the point being is like you put in the time, and then you read books about it, you talk to people about it, you learn from others. Like, hey man, there's a better way of doing that. You think about like you gotta take what God has given you and cooperate with the Holy Spirit and develop those gifts. And so, man, be somebody that's teachable. You can have a gift, but like learn from the people that if you find okay, here's my gift, man, I guarantee you there's somebody in the church that's probably a generation ahead of you. Ahead of me somewhere that knows how to do it like gangbusters and learn from them. It's like we were talking about Dr. Estep, my pastor. It's funny, when I went to Israel for the first time with them a few years back, everywhere you go in Israel, there's a stop, and Ronnie, our guide, will do the history and the Bible lesson of what happened there, and then we'll do a devotion there. So between me and Eric and his dad, we were doing the round robin things, and I remember I was sitting there, And his dad did the first one like there. And I told Eric, I said, God, your dad is so good at this.
Yeah.
You know, I'm just watching it like.
He makes it seem so
I mean, it's just,
effortless.
it is. And it's just like, man, your dad is so good at doing that. And I'm just watching it kind of taking notes, you know, and I do it every day. I do it every Sunday, you know, but I'm watching Dr. Estep. Now our styles are different, but I'm watching from somebody that's a master at the craft, that's developed that skill. So like, I think whatever your gifts are, you know, you got to get out there and try them. I'm a big believer too. Like, I love to learn new things. I've never been a person that is afraid to try to look stupid trying to learn something new.
I'm the opposite.
Yeah, I don't mind.
Yeah.
I don't mind that because I'm driven to learn. But one thing about me, I learn by doing. I'll watch people. I'll read about things if I want to do something, and then I'm like, okay, I'll go try that. And then when I try it hands on by myself, then I realize, oh, I see what I did wrong. I should do that. That's just how it works for me. So same thing with spiritual gifts for me. Like, you know, with my preaching, I worked on it over the years. Of course, we had classes in seminary, but you start doing things, read books, you're influenced here, but you start putting together what works for you. But you work on it. You know, you work on it. And I think we definitely need to make sure we're developing our gifts and you know, be hungry, you know, be hungry for your spiritual gift, be teachable with it, and want to honor God with it, you know, and just work on it. So we talk about that all the time, man, come on, get better. We should get better at what we're doing. Right. We should never be satisfied where we are, I think, in you know, certainly leadership at the church.
Well, you mentioned today, always be teachable, always be learning. I mean, and I think that's where you deepen, discover and deepen your spiritual gifts, you know, by listening to others as well, and listening to yourself. Because I remember even times, I mean, when I started off, I was horrible, still am, but
it's painful to listen to yourself.
Yeah,
like I can't stand to watch myself. Like I'm like, gosh, I'm such an idiot. Why did I say that?
Why did I say that? Why did I do that? How many do I, you know, all this kind of jazz.
You do a great job too.
And so, but the reality is that always with a mindset to try to get better.
Right.
Yeah.
Always with you said as well, is that use it for, you know, God's glory, use it for the church mission moving forward. And so again, with that in mind, okay, discover your gifts. Anybody listening to us should, man, I want to do that. Okay, and then of course, you know, I love how you said it, even, you know, trial and error. I mean, you know, then ask others.
Yeah, just try.
I mean, you know, it's just...
Yeah, because we'll never be offended. Like, I'm thinking, like, here at the church, it's like if you ever step onto one of our serve teams and, like, you know, you're like, this is not for me. It's like, no harm, no foul. Like, we know.
Jump on another one.
Exactly. There's
the deal is don't jump off, find your fit. And we've had that situation where somebody tried something, it was not for them, but then they moved and shifted positions and they found the seat on the bus, and they thrived.
Yes,
you know, and
absolutely.
It's like, yes.
And then that's up to us as leaders, too, to
be
be able to see that in people. And so that was another thing that you talked about this morning. I think it was part of your development piece that you talked about, is to listen out for other people.
Yep.
Like, and so that's the thing, because people should pour into you and say, hey, you're a really good communicator, you're a really good this and that and the other. And so then that way that'll help you identify those gifts that God's given you naturally.
Well, who are you circling yourself with? Are those people that want to help you move forward? Are those people who are like-minded, and then will help you literally advance the ball down the court?
Yep.
Yeah, and there's the role too, like like we talk about gifts of the Spirit, the source of the gifts, it comes from God.
Right.
And so the Holy Spirit gives us the gift. We've got to do our part, but the Holy Spirit is working alongside that to help us develop that gift and use that gift. Because look, if we're just using it on our power without the Holy Spirit, good luck, man, nothing's going to happen from that. But like when you come alongside, the Holy Spirit's trying to shape us and grow us. That's part of that. You know, in salvation, there's that sanctification where He's making us little by little more like Jesus. But I think Holy Spirit's active in that too. Like when we're coming alongside and we want to honor God with the gift, we want to use it at best our ability. We're willing to be teachable. You know, we're hungry for that. We're trying to learn, and we're open to that. The Holy Spirit comes alongside and really fosters that development, which is
you'll
really,
see him.
really great.
You'll see him make a way to continue to develop. Like you'll just see doors open and people cross your path, and you'll just see. Looking back, it might not seem like it in the moment. Sometimes you'll have an aha moment, but it's like oftentimes it's like when you're looking back and you can see how He made a way, you know, for you to grow and to develop.
But then, man, you know,
gifts,
whenever, like you just, you know, just don't ignore and neglect the gift you've got. Deploy it. And that's one thing, getting back on the message, I would encourage everybody to go back and read 1 Corinthians 12 this week, the whole chapter, because there's more of that. I didn't have time to cover in that on that same topic. We speak about spiritual gifts, but especially also that passage where Paul's encouraging Timothy. And Timothy, I'm convinced, is kind of like, I don't feel like I can do this. He feels, you know, he's learning from Paul, this great, you know, these church leaders, and yet he's a young pastor. And it's very clear, you know, that's the same thing. Paul tells him, God didn't give you a spirit of fear. Apparently he had a spirit of fear. He was timid, you know. So Paul's talking about, come on, man, you can do this. He's got that mentor in his life, but he's just calling him out like, don't neglect your gift, deploy your gift, use it. You know, you've got your gift. And I love that he's encouraging the next generation, because what Paul's doing there is he comes alongside, he says, hey, we know your gift. We see it in you.
Yeah.
We see it in you. It's preaching. That's
Yes.
why you don't need to be doing anything else. That's what you need to be doing.
Yep.
You devote yourself to that.
Yep.
Don't neglect your gift.
Yes.
We see it. We believe in you. That's why we laid hands on you. You know, biblically, that's why we did that. Like we see that in you. Go after that. Go do that. Don't neglect that gift. You deploy that gift and work on that gift. So he says, we can see your progress. You got to develop that gift. All those things are right there, which is great. And it'd be good for people to go back and see that. But the key is just like, okay, even as we're doing it, you don't wait until you've, quote, fully developed it to deploy it.
Correct.
You deploy it and develop it along the way. I probably should have taught it that way and then developed on the back end, because it's all mixed in there.
Yeah.
But a lot of times people will do that sometimes. Well, when I get ready and I feel comfortable, then I'll No.
Right.
Get in there now, trial and error, learn by doing. And I love when people do that, because then, you know, people are coming alongside and like, hey, I got to get for this, and they're plugging it in, they're finding their spot where they need to be, and it's the best place to be. And that's case in point. It's like I touched on this a little bit this morning, but this podcast is one of those things.
Yeah.
The way this came about, you know, for those that know, some people know Tracy, some don't, but Tracy's back there behind the switches right now running this thing. And Tracy and I got to be friends. Tracy's a fascinating, interesting person to me, and I always love to talk to him when I drop by their life group, because Fran and Reggie's groups always invite me to social gatherings, and his wife makes an amazing apple pie, by the way. But love to talk to Tracy about all kinds of things, politics, life, history, all those kind of things. And he worked for Billy Graham for years, worked for CNN in the early days, worked for Billy Graham, and now works for Franklin. So anytime you see Franklin on TV, Tracy's probably in the room doing the satellite feed for that. So it's just real interesting. But he helps did their podcast studio, did all that kind of stuff. And he came to me and he's like, hey, I got to give for this. This is how I serve. You know, this is what I do for my job. This is what I do for my career. You know, you ever thought about doing a podcast? And at the time we were just thinking about just doing it like a man camp kind of thing. And I'm like, yeah, we should do that. And we started kind of walking down that path of doing that, because he was offering his gifts. And I was thinking that might be something fun to do, or something that would be a good possibility. I think we could do that. And we didn't envision this, the weekly thing, just maybe a man camp once in a whatever. Well, then I go out to that thing I got invited to with Howerton, and Becky and I go flying out to California with these young leaders. I'm telling you, man, they were young. I'm like, man, why are we here with the grandparents in the room? Everybody's got kids in diapers. But,
you said we were the oldest ones there. I almost said it's not very hard to do.
I know it. But Howerton's a good guy. And let me just say this about him, like, of all these people bagging on megachurch pastors and blah, 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 that guy is the real deal.
He is.
That guy is so awesome. He's so humble. He's so helpful, so positive. I watched him. I was instantly impressed. We pulled up to the retreat center. It was hot that day. Guess what? He's out there standing, greeting people as they pull in the cars outside. Not his staff doing it, him. I like that. Instant kudos to me just watching that.
Right.
You lead by example. But anyway, he was pushing us while we were there. We were talking. It was kind of a closed door kind of gathering of pastors about how pastors need to engage the culture, and talking about what we've talked about on this podcast of how we've moved from positive world, where our culture used to think Christianity was a good idea and good for the country. Now we moved to negative world. A lot of pastors still think we're in positive world and are preaching that way. You got to preach you got to understand it's different day and time.
Yep.
You're still preaching the same Bible, but how you do it is important. And he said part of that, he's like, we started a podcast. It's been incredibly successful for us. You know, he said Carlos is the one that made it happen, and God, obviously. But he said more of you guys need to get in that. And so I'm thinking, here's Tracy wanting to do that. God's brought a guy with the gifts and the talents into our church to do that. Here, God, that was my one takeaway. Like, not all the takeaways, but one of the major ones. Like, we got to do this. Like I understood what he and Josh McPherson, another pastor, were saying that hosted that thing. He said, you've got to be online. You need to be on YouTube, especially. They said that's the driver. You need to be out there speaking to your people, speaking about cultural issues, all that kind of stuff. Right. We need more of this. So I came back home and like, okay, Tracy, let's go. And so they built this studio. Tracy designed it. We had some volunteers that helped. Again, people using their gifts to wire stuff, electronics, I mean, all this stuff. People using gifts to paint walls and build things to do this, to get this great professional looking studio.
Krista can make a good pie, but she's also designed all of our shelves and things in here, put the ladies' touch on it, you know.
It has a ladies' touch. But all of that, I love that. That was like, hey, let me deploy my gifts and let me use them in a fit. And it's been fun to do. But that's how all that came about. But I love that when somebody comes, hey, I got a gift for this, and God works and puts it together, and there we're doing it. So like, so discover those gifts. Right. Develop them as you go and deploy them where you fit best. So there you go.
Very true.
Awesome.
All right. Awesome. All right. Well, moving on to our last point of the day, and this is going to be interesting, but all right.
No comment.
Put plainly, it says, so how are we to discern? This is something that you brought up in the message today, is kind of the mean monster thing. You hit on that a little bit. Yep. So how can we discern if someone is using a gift of the Spirit for their own gain through way of, like, if it seems like manipulation, control, popularity, etc.? And I feel like social media is a big place that we can see this sometimes today. I mean, you see it in the church too, but I'm just saying, for me personally, I see people all the time, and I'll kind of see these videos, and I'm kind of like, I don't know about that, you know. So how can we kind of?
You mean you don't take a picture of your coffee cup and your Bible sitting on the desk? Time with you, hashtag time with you. You know, I'm like, man, if that's all the reward you're gonna get from that. Anyway, that's my pet peeve.
Don't do that. AKA, if you're doing that, don't do that.
Read your Bible, but just spend time with Jesus alone. Right. Jesus had something to say about that. You get the only reward you get is what the likes on Facebook. Go ahead, don't get started. Well, let me just say this: like, you can't. So somebody, like, I use the true story today, and I knew the lady that was the prima donna soloist, and like when she couldn't get all the solos, she's been out of shape and ends up leaving the church. I'm like, man, okay, it's not hard to figure out. I don't care what you're like. You got a problem.
Right.
Like, you're doing it for the wrong reasons.
Right.
Yeah.
And I would say this, like, for most people, like, you can watch people, like, people watch us. Jesus says, by their fruit, you will know them. Correct. Like, and so you can't, like, we don't go around judging everybody, but like, if you watch long enough, sometimes you can kind of get a weird vibe sometimes on that sort of thing. And everybody, look, man, we got to be careful of that, because everybody's got a little me monster in them.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I can like being up there, even though I was introverted, I can like being up there. Mm-hmm. I enjoy it, you know, but I got to keep the focus, like, in humility, like, this is about pointing people to Jesus, not getting people.
And you did that today. You got a round of applause today, and you said, "That's God. That is
God
that developed that in me." Yes.
Right, but you got to do that. So you got to be careful on that. But I think so many times, like, and Kevin, you've been in this long enough to know, and this is why sometimes I'm a little bit cynical. I have to be careful, but I've been around it enough to know, oh, here comes the guy that's just really after business contacts. I've seen that. Somebody's trying to build a bit. I've seen all that kind of stuff. You know, I've seen, people that jump in trying to do something because they want an inroads with the pastor for some reason, which I'm like, I don't know why you'd want inroads with me. I got nothing to offer. But but people will do that kind of thing. And you just have to kind of watch that a little bit. I do think it just goes back to by the fruit they will know them. You can see the people that walk with true humility. It's not hard to figure it out. And they're going to be the people too that, regardless of what's going on, they'll jump in and help out. They're going to be the people, they're going to be the first one out the door to serve, to help do something. Nothing's beneath them.
Right.
Nothing's beneath them. They're like, man, I'll help take out the trash. I'll help do whatever else. No, I'll jump in. Where can I be used? They're not sitting there demanding, well, how dare you? I should have this. No, they're just like, oh, you need me to do that? I'll go do that.
Right.
Mm-hmm. It's like at camp. We got all kinds of people at camp here. Good night, man. Those boys and their aim aren't so good in the toilet. It's like we're cleaning bathrooms, every day, keeping things up. But like we got all kinds of different, and we just got a lot of people like, I don't mind doing that. They help me clean toilets. I clean toilets.
I have photo evidence of you.
Well, yeah, of course you do that. If it's not
plumbing
a big deal.
some toilets. I do.
Yeah, I clogged a lot of toilets. Them little fellas.
What is
like,
that tool that you use?
It's an auger.
It's
whatever.
No.
I don't know what they're feeding these children, but they can clog up a toilet.
But anyway,
but the same. But you got a whole group of people that come serve at that thing, and they don't. They don't mind where they serve. And I think you watch that, and you watch that humility piece behind it, and you begin to see it. So I think that's, a little bit, like I said, you can't ever judge. I mean, some people, people have different personalities, but a lot of times it doesn't take you much intelligence to see, oh yeah, that's a pretty big ego there.
Right.
I think that's about them.
Oh, yeah. and God develops that through time. And like I've been talking to a couple of our interns right now. I'm like, it is, y'all talk about spiritual maturity and different things like that. And so that is something else that God develops in you over time, because there has been so many times that I have been so disappointed, just by people who, like, I feel like are really, you kind of welcome them in as friends and things like that, but really it starts through like a gift, if they're like hospitable, and then you like think that you know somebody or whatever. And I've had several conversations with you where you've been like, yeah, but this is where, it's disappointing, but you can see like just these couple different points, and like that's just a lesson moving forward if you see certain traits in somebody, or if you see certain things pop up.
Well, it's like I taught Daniel this a long time ago, and like when he came on working music with us years ago, and he's coming on, I said, look, like you have to be very, very careful in church world, particularly with the visible stage gifts. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. You have to be very, very careful with that, because the Satan was the worship leader. You know that, right? I mean, that's why Martin Luther said something about like, the devil begins in the choir loft. It's just like that, and that's like for people who do what I do, and people that are on stage that are leading work. You have to be very careful there because that's a thing that kind of draws the ego. Like I said, I love doing what I do. Like it's fun. It's fun to be up there. If you're not careful, let me monster take over, and you do it for your own reason, thinking it's you and not God, and all this that. And so I told him, I said, like, you can always discern the people you want on your team. And this is true. We've talked to Natalie, you and I've talked about this. Like, you got to see the people that got a humble spirit and the Spirit's heart. Like, people that have the right attitude, they'll just do what you ask them to do. They're not mad that they didn't get this solo, they didn't get this water. Like, and I always told him, I said, look, I said, if I put anybody new on that team, I wouldn't let him do anything but backing for 6 weeks. See what the attitude looks like.
Right.
We also used to have a filter the way we do it when they come on. They got to use all that technology. They got the in-ear things and all that. So it's a real learning curve for people that might have a gift for music, but came from a church. They had a choir. They've never done that technology. And if I played with them one time, my head about exploded. Like that click track in there, like tick, 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 a little metronome. But
intro. Chorus.
Well, I know, it's like telling you what to do. It's like, who is this woman?
Yep.
Why are these British people telling me what to do? That's what I talked last week. But I told him back then, I said, I remember we had a lady that came on and borderline, needed work with that. And so I said, your feeder should always be student ministry. Kick them there where they can learn their learning. Then start using them on Sunday morning backing. And I just told him, I said, look, and I've told several people that work for us that did music this. I said, if you try to kick them down to students because they need some help, in the student ministry, it's less to learn the technology. If they balk on that or act offended by that, you don't want them on the team.
Right.
Like 100%. I'll tell you that right. I am not ashamed. You do not want them on the team because that is a red flag. That's the wrong way. Same thing. If somebody was trying to teach something like we don't give them the stage and they're all bent out of shape, but we gave them an opportunity to lead a men's group on Tuesday night.
Right.
And you don't like that because you want to do the main thing. You're the wrong person for the job.
Right.
I mean, it's like that kind of stuff is like same thing on a staff member. If you're all bowed out, well, that's not my job. And I shouldn't be like, man, you should pick up a plunger and plunge a toilet. Like it doesn't, like that's what servants do. So I think you can watch that. And I think that's some of the things that you have to look at. And you have to be careful as a church leader, like not to put the wrong people in places of leadership. If you see those red flags, it's time to extricate ourselves. And like, no. Doesn't mean they're bad people. Doesn't mean we hate them. Doesn't mean we're kicking somebody out of the church. But it's like, look, if you have the gift of teaching and we're willing to start you slow somewhere as we get to know you, and you're coming and you're willing to do whatever. Right. Maybe it's a small group student leader to start out and everything. And you're like, man, just fire it up. Thanks for the opportunity. I'm going to develop my gifts. You're the person we want. Right. You're the person God's going to take and use because you'll develop that gift. And in time, you work your way up. Right. But if you're like, I can't believe they're not letting me this. And we've had people do that. They show up expecting to do something on this level. And we don't even know you. And then they cut and run. But it's just, I've always seen that particularly with, the Sunday morning stuff with worship. And I've always told Daniel, I said, watch people's attitude. I said, if you have to kick them for some extra practice because they're still not ready with the technology, watch how they respond to that. Mm-hmm. And if they're not responding well to that, that's not somebody that you want on that team. And one of the guys that was interesting, we worked with a company called Slingshot looking at worship stuff one time, and the guy named Ronald came. I think you met Ronald. Yeah. And Ronald was telling me how he did it at his church, and he said he brings people in, and he had, they have band music like we do, but they have like kind of a choir thing on stage too. And he says, I kick everybody in the choir for like 2 months. Doesn't matter how talented they are. And he knows whether he knows how to, he's a really gifted musician. He knows whether they got the talent to do it or not. He said, it doesn't matter. They could sing like, give me somebody.
Whitney Houston.
All right. And
yeah, there you go. That's what I was thinking.
So you could be like that, and he's still going to put you in that choir for a couple months. And he says, I want to see their body. I want to get to know them. I want to get to know their heart, their faith in Christ. But he said, I want to also see how they respond to that, whether they're humble enough to do that and they're not bothered by it. Because he said, once again, like I just said, if they are, that's not the right person. So I think that's that humility piece. You look for that. Right. Why am I doing what I'm doing? You look for that. And that's something we need to remind ourselves. It is easy for us all to drift into the pat on the back's fun. Right. The recognition is fun. And if we find ourselves drifting in there, we're going to need to repent of that and be like, Lord, man, it's about you. Like, help me point people to you, not myself. So you have to keep that in mind. And that's why I found things like, people are constantly friending me on social media here. You're I'm popular. Like, well, no, but the bad part is they're going to be sorely disappointed because I've never posted anything. And I'm not hardly on there anymore because I'll be honest with you, for me, I began to look, every time I was going to put something out there, I'm like, why am I putting that out there? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Almost everything I was putting out, that's so somebody like, oh, that's cool, he's skateboarding. Oh, that's cool, he's doing. And to me, it was just like, I don't need to feed that narcissistic thing in my life. I have to be careful with that. So I just don't So anyway, so I'll friend you back, but you might be disappointed. You might have to watch some posts from a long time ago. But maybe I'll start back, but I don't know, figure out
maybe
how to
I'll
make
just
it
start
not
taking
self-centered.
funny videos of you for the church social media,
Yeah,
and then you don't
nobody-
have to post on your personal
Tagging
page.
them.
Nobody needs that. But does that answer your question? I mean, I think that's one of those things that, like, you know, it watch for the humility piece. Watch for the person that is willing to do it regardless and is happy to do whatever else. Watch
And
the people
be
at
that
church.
person.
Be that. Watch the people that jump in, man. I'm telling you that I love the people that do that. It doesn't matter what you have. Like, man, I'm there. I'm willing to help. Doesn't matter. You know, be willing to do that. And that's an important thing for those of us in leadership. I've never had a problem stepping down when I'm not in charge of something and saying, what do you need me to do?
Right.
Like, I'll do whatever. I don't care. Like, you know, it doesn't matter.
Right.
Just be a servant.
Yes.
So.
Yeah.
Well, that's where motive matters. I mean, you think about, go back to, as a disciple, we want to be like Christ. Okay, Mark 10:45, he didn't come to be served, but to serve.
Right.
You know, and so I mean, I think that is what we should strive.
Yeah.
You know, and then even in 1 Peter 4, where it says, use the gifts to serve others. Okay, is your gift serving others? Is your gift advancing the kingdom? Is your gift making much of the mission?
Right.
You know, and I think that's where you can see, you know, if somebody's manipulating your gift. Is it about serving me? Is it about advancing me, or is it about God in the kingdom?
You bring up a good point there, too. There are people that will use their influence in the church and their, quote, gift to try to manipulate you and control you, too.
Oh, 100%.
Now, I've had this one, Natalie.
I've had
I've had where people come up and like, I've got the gift for such and such, and God told me to tell you, fill in the blank. And I'm like, thank you for that. God has not told me yet, you know, and I've been around some people that, like, there's a difference between people that love you enough to tell you the truth. Hey, man, are you okay? You're acting like a nut. Like, you know, there's that, and that we need to lean into, but then there are those people that are doing that manipulative thing, and I've had that before, you know, where people will try to leverage their spiritual gift and authority over you to either manipulate you and control you. You gotta watch for that one.
Right.
You gotta watch for
Absolutely.
that, for sure.
And we'll wrap up. I know that we're short on time, but I just think this morning you talked about the me monster, and you just talked about, you know, taking yourself out of the equation and things like that. And I think that maybe you've mentioned it in one of your sermons before, but it's like whenever if you're thinking about, you know, a gift that God's given you, and you're thinking about serving, and you're in that excuse making mode or something like that, whatever excuses that you're making, think about what you're saying and how many times you say I or me in that sentence.
100%.
And that's a telltale sign right there. Anytime I see somebody posting something on social media, if they're like very emotive or whatever, I can literally sit there and look at how many times they've put me in there. It's not, God, what do you have for me? You know, what do you want me to do in this? Where are you leading me? It's like, well, I don't feel like doing this, or I don't want to inconvenience myself or my family, you know. So just think about that. Whatever excuses you might be up against today, think about, you know, take yourself out of the equation and just ask what the Holy Spirit could be leading you to do.
Yeah, and with that, land the plane on that. The final thought here with that, with the Holy Spirit, like, we are given these gifts by God. They're sourced from the Spirit, which means there's different ways of using things. But remember, the key takeaway is like, hey, I need to be willing to find out what my gift is and leverage it for God. And God, here, I'm going to offer it to you, but find the best fit. You know, there's what we call in church. This is one of the things. Can I give you a pet peeve? Something that bugs me.
Go ahead.
Worried me for death. I'm always bothered by unmet potential. I'm bothered when I see a young person that has a lot of potential
100%.
but doesn't have the life skills and comes out and fails to launch, like, and settles for something. There's a lot of that. We've all probably got unmet potential in our life, but the same thing with the church. I look at the amount of people that show up at our church, the amount of gifted and talented people, and there are people that are working their tails off, offering their gifts, and then there's people that don't do a thing. And it's like, and their church is hurt. The mission is hurt when people don't leverage their gifts, because God gave them for that, for the building up of the church. And so a lot of times we have what we call in church the 80-20 rule. Now I think we do better than that on our percentage, because we serve here. It's what we do. But what that means is 20% of the people give 80% of the money and do 80% of the work.
Yeah.
And so sometimes you got people that are just like, they love Jesus, they're doers, and they're plugging holes everywhere.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And they're doing it because somebody else isn't doing it. And there's somebody that in the church is sitting in the pew, in the chair, whatever, that's out there, that's got that gift that ought to be, that's their fit, but somebody else is having to do that. And then sometimes people, they feel guilty about giving that up and everything. But here's what I just say to you: do your best, find your fit. And man, think about the potential. What if every person in this church that loves Jesus, I mean, that saved person, Man, can you imagine what we could do, the amount of stuff the church could do in the community that God could do through the church and the community through us if everybody leveraged the gifts? I mean, it's just amazing, like what you could do. And that always bothers me. So find your fit, find your place. And like I said, we will help you do that. Yeah. If you are like me and you didn't know where to start, come talk to us. Right. We'll give you some trial and error. We'll give you some guidance. We've got even, like Kevin, you've got inventories on spiritual goods, kind of help channel people where they need to go.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And then we'll help you with that. But man, if every person would find their fit, imagine if we got away from the 80-20 rule, like I just described, and like you had 100% of people that love Jesus offering their gifts and service to Jesus. Man, just imagine how much more could be accomplished because of that. Because that's been one of those drivers. I remember we've looked at next steps for the church, over the years, and where's God leading us? And, a lot of times churches like us, they start looking at, well, maybe you do another campus, you do another location, stuff like that. I think you told me you wanted one at the beach, correct?
The coastal location. And I am going. Peace out, Lenore.
We ain't getting out of the mountains.
Literally.
But it's a little bit far.
But when you think about that, like I always think about these initiatives and you think about what's coming up next and what God's leading the church to do, and you're like, whew. And that's one of those things when God leads us, why it's intimidating sometimes, because you're like, that's going to take a lot of people to do that.
Right.
Mm-hmm. I mean, you do two locations. It's exponential when you do that. I've had friends that have done that in their churches. When you launch another, like it's exponential. It's not double. It's like exponential. The amount of complexity and stuff that it adds. So, so you got to have the talent. The people are there.
Right.
The talented people are there. Just got to not make excuses and trust the word that you are talented and find your place, but find your fit. Find your fit. That's where you need to be. And man, you'll thrive there.
Yep.
So there you go.
Amen.
Well, a few things we've said is delayed obedience is disobedience. We've talked about yes on the table, but I want to counteract that with immediate obedience unlocks purpose.
There you go.
And so when we think towards that, people are looking for purpose in life.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, put your yes on the table and find your gift and realize how God can use you. I mean, you just mentioned there the kingdom impact that we could have in Caldwell County and beyond if Waterlife Church family puts their yes on the table, discovers their gift, and develops it and deploys it.
I said it today.
Go ahead.
A yes to generosity is a yes to opportunity. The same thing with service. When you're generous with your time and talent, a yes to service is going to be the exact same thing. It's going to be yes to opportunity. That churches respond to opportunities, meets needs, meets the mission. So there you go.
Yeah.
One thing I'll end on, and this just popped in my head. The church doesn't want something from you. We want something for you. We want you to be a part 100%. Of what God is doing here, because He is up to wonderful things, and we are seeing Him move in every aspect of everything we do here, and we want you to be a part of that. It's the greatest, one of the greatest blessings that we've ever been given is the opportunity to serve and be a part of God's kingdom here on earth.
No better way to end.
Yeah.
Well done, Natalie. Using that gift for the gab.
Get fired up. Gift of gab.
Natalie went to preaching there.
Here we go. All right. Well, we will see you all back here next week for another episode of the Waterlife Debrief Podcast.